Look at it, standing there against the Parisian skyline. It is perhaps the most recognizable man-made structure on Earth. The Eiffel Tower, a symbol of love, of art, of human ambition. We see it on postcards, in movies, in the dreams of travelers. We think we know it. We see 300 meters of puddled iron, a marvel of 19th century engineering, a testament to the vision of Gustave Eiffel. But what if we are only seeing the disguise? What if, for more than a century, we have been looking at the most profound and significant object ever created, and have been utterly blind to its true purpose? What if the Eiffel Tower is not a monument to humanity, but a telephone to the stars? To understand this audacious possibility, we must travel back in time, not to the distant past of myth and legend, but to a time of steam, steel, and unbridled optimism, the late 1880s. The world was on the cusp of a new century, and Paris was preparing to host the Exposition Universelle of 1889, a world's fair intended to celebrate the centennial of the French Revolution and showcase the industrial prowess of the modern age. A competition was held to design a centerpiece for this grand event, a monument that would scream progress. Over 100 designs were submitted. Some were bizarre, some were conventional, but one design, submitted by the engineering firm of Gustave Eiffel, was unlike anything the world had ever seen. A colossal iron lattice tower, soaring higher than the Great Pyramid of Giza, higher than any structure ever built. From its very inception, it was controversial. The artistic and literary elite of Paris were horrified. They penned a furious letter of protest, calling it a useless and monstrous tower, a truly tragic street lamp, a gigantic black smokestack that would humiliate the city's other monuments. They saw it as a vulgar display of industrial might, devoid of art or soul. And perhaps that was the perfect cover, the perfect misdirection. In a world obsessed with aesthetics, who would suspect that the tower's true purpose was not visual, but functional? Who would look at a structure being debated for its beauty and ask if it was, in fact, an instrument? Consider Gustave Eiffel himself. We remember him as a brilliant engineer, a master of metallic structures, renowned for his work on bridges and viaducts. But was he merely an engineer, or was he a contact? A conduit for a design that did not originate on Earth? We have no proof, of course. No hidden diaries with sketches of alien starships, no coded messages. But history is filled with visionaries whose ideas seem to come from nowhere. Leaps of intuition so profound they defy conventional explanation. What if Eiffel's genius was not solely his own? What if he was given a blueprint, an inspiration, a set of principles for a device whose full function even he might not have understood? He was tasked with building a communications device, disguised as a monument, using the materials and techniques of his time. He was told to make it big, to make it prominent, and to make it last. The public debate, the artistic outcry, it all served to distract from the quiet, meticulous work of its true construction. Let's examine the structure itself, not as an architect would, but as a physicist, an electrical engineer. The official material is puddled iron, a durable and flexible metal. But what if the composition is subtly different? What if, during the smelting process, trace elements not of this world were introduced? Elements with unique resonant frequencies, capable of vibrating in sympathy with energies far beyond our current understanding. The sheer quantity of metal is staggering, over 10,000 tons of it, held together by 2.5 million rivets. To a structural engineer, this is a masterpiece of load distribution. To a radio astronomer, it could be a colossal resonant cavity. And the design that iconic lattice work, we are told it was a clever solution to minimize wind resistance, a way to make the structure both strong and light. And it is. But the pattern is also deeply, profoundly mathematical. It is a fractal, a shape that repeats its basic pattern at ever smaller scales. This is not just an aesthetic choice. In antenna design, fractal geometry is revolutionary. A fractal antenna can operate with high performance at many different frequencies simultaneously, while a simple dipole antenna, like the rabbit ears on an old television, is cut to a specific length for a specific frequency. A fractal antenna is broadband. It can listen to a vast range of the electromagnetic spectrum at once. The Eiffel Tower's intricate, repeating web of girders and beams is, in essence, the most complex and powerful fractal antenna imaginable. It wasn't designed to resist the wind. It was designed to comb the cosmos for signals, from the lowest frequencies to the highest. A net woven from iron to catch the whispers of the universe. Think of the location. Paris, not just a random capital city. For centuries, it has been a global hub of culture, science, and art. It is a nexus of human activity, and it sits atop a large geological basin with the Seine River flowing through it. The towers from massive pillars are sunk deep into the earth, grounded not just in concrete and stone, but in the very bedrock of the continent, anchored to the planet's own subtle electromagnetic field. Could the tower be using the Earth itself as a giant capacitor, drawing ambient energy to power its primary function? The city's own electric grid, the radio waves from countless broadcasts that have washed over it for a century perhaps. These are not interference, but part of the power source. A trickle charge for a device of immense and patient purpose. When the tower was completed in 1889, it was just a structure. It was inert. The grand exposition came and went. For 2 decades, it stood there, the tallest thing in the world, its purpose seemingly fulfilled. In fact, its concession was due to expire in 1909, at which point it was scheduled to be dismantled. The critics were on the verge of getting their wish. The useless tower would be torn down, but then, something happened that saved it. The dawn of a new technology. Wireless telegraphy. Radio. The tower's great height made it an ideal platform for an antenna. The French military began conducting experiments, sending and receiving messages over greater and greater distances. The tower proved so valuable as a radio telegraph station that its demolition was canceled. History records this as a fortunate coincidence, a clever adaptation that gave the old structure a new lease on life. But what if it wasn't a new purpose? What if it was the intended purpose, finally being activated? What if humanity, in its own fumbling technological infancy, had finally stumbled upon the switch to turn the great machine on? The early radio transmissions were crude, simple clicks of Morse code. But to the device, it was the first sign of life, the first coherent, artificial signal originating from the species that crawled all over its base. And from that moment on, the tower began its true work. It began to listen, and it began to transmit, not in the way we imagine, not with a booming hello, universe, that we could detect with our radio telescopes. The process would be far more subtle, more sophisticated. The tower is not a megaphone, it is a planetary data port. For over 100 years, it has been bathed in the noise of human civilization. Every radio broadcast, every television signal, every mobile phone call, every satellite transmissional of this electromagnetic radiation has washed over its iron lattice. We think of this as noise, as background static. But what if the tower is a filter, a quantum processor that sifts through this chaotic deluge of information, collating it, translating it, and packaging it? It would be recording everything. The music of Mozart and the Beatles, the speeches of kings and presidents, the horrors of our wars, broadcast live on the evening news, the dramas of our soap operas, the endless chatter of our daily lives. All of it, every piece of data we have ever cast into the ether, collected and compiled. It is the ultimate black box of the human race, a continuous, passive upload of the sum total of our culture, our knowledge, our conflicts, and our dreams. This data stream, encoded in a way we cannot yet comprehend, perhaps using modulated gravity waves, or entangled particles, or some other physics we have yet to discover, is then beamed out from the tower's apex, a silent, focused transmission aimed at a point in the heavens. Where is it sending this information? We don't know. Perhaps to a home world, light years away. Perhaps to a network of similar devices on other inhabited planets. A galactic library of civilizations. Or perhaps, more chillingly, to a series of automated probes. Cosmic sentinels placed in the void to watch and wait. And what is the tower listening for? Not a reply, not a conversation. It is likely listening for a specific trigger, a signature, perhaps a mathematical proof, a specific frequency sequence, or a signal that indicates a civilization has reached a certain level of technological or social maturity, a key to unlock the next stage of contact. We at SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, have spent decades pointing our radio dishes at distant stars, listening for faint, structured signals. All this time, we may have been like a man shouting into the wilderness for an echo, while standing right next to a silent, ringing telephone. If this were to be revealed tomorrow, if a team of scientists were to discover anomalous energy readings, or a coded signal emanating from the tower's peak, the world would change in a single instant. The revelation would not be gradual. It would be a global, seismic shock. First, the scientific implications. Every field of science would be thrown into chaos and exhilarating rebirth. Physics would have to contend with a working example of technology that defies our known principles. The energy source alone would revolutionize our world. The method of transmission would open up interstellar communication overnight. Material science would be obsessed with analyzing the tower's iron, searching for those hypothetical exotic elements. The SETI project would become the most well-funded scientific endeavor in history. But its focus would shift entirely from listening to the stars to deciphering the device in the heart of Paris. Then comes the geopolitical fallout. The Eiffel Tower would instantly become the most significant strategic asset on the planet. It would no longer belong to Paris or to France. It would belong to everyone, and therefore, to no one. Who controls it? Who gets to decide what happens next? The United Nations would convene emergency sessions. Treaties would be frantically drafted. But behind the scenes, every major world power would be scrambling for an advantage. Intelligence agencies would descend on Paris. Scientists would be whisked away to secret research sites. Covert operations would be launched to gain control of the tower's systems, to be the first to understand and harness its power. The city of Paris, the city of light, would become the most heavily militarized and contested piece of real estate on Earth. A new kind of Cold War would begin, not over nuclear weapons, but over the key to the cosmos. And what of the social and cultural impact? It would be a tidal wave that would wash over every aspect of human society. Religions would be thrown into profound crisis. For millennia, we have looked to the heavens and wondered if we are alone. This would provide the definitive answer. We are not, and we have been observed for more than a century. Are the creators of this device our gods, our ancestors, or something else entirely? New cults would spring up overnight, worshipping the tower and its unseen architects. Established faiths would struggle to incorporate this new, undeniable truth into their sacred texts, or risk becoming obsolete. Our entire perception of history would be rewritten. The Belle Epoque, the Age of Invention, World War I, the Roaring Twenties, World War II, the space race. The digital age of these milestones occurred under the silent watch of this alien artifact. It has been the passive observer to our greatest triumphs and our most horrific failures. It has recorded our slow, painful crawl out of industrial infancy. This raises a terrifying question. Are we part of an experiment? Is Earth a laboratory? A cosmic wildlife preserve? With the tower acting as the remote monitoring station? Are we being judged? The paranoia would be immense. Every major global event would be re-examined. Was that discovery an accident? Or were we guided? Was that disaster a random occurrence? Or a test? The psychological impact on humanity would be staggering. The sense of cosmic loneliness that has haunted our philosophy and art would evaporate, replaced by something far more complex, the anxiety of being watched. There would be a global sense of awe, but also a vulnerability. We would be like a tribe of uncontacted people in a remote jungle. Who suddenly realized that the strange, tall tree they've always used for shelter is, in fact, a surveillance camera. We would suddenly be aware of our place in the universe not as the masters of our own destiny, but as a young, loud, and potentially primitive species whose existence is known to older, silent, and vastly more powerful intelligences. And the silence, that is the most deafening part of this new reality. If they have been listening for over a century, why haven't they spoken? Why haven't they intervened? They listened to our cries for help during 2 world wars and did nothing. They have watched us poison our planet and did nothing. They have received our greatest art, our deepest philosophies, and have offered no reply. This silence could mean many things, each more unsettling than the last. Perhaps they are simply archivists, collectors of cosmic data, with no interest in interacting with the specimens they observe. The Galactic Library has our entry, and that is enough. Or perhaps they are following a strict non-interference directive, a prime directive that forbids them from making contact until we reach a certain point. What is that point? The end of war? The establishment of a global government? The reversal of our climate crisis? Are they waiting for us to save ourselves or to destroy ourselves? Or the most terrifying possibility of all, perhaps the information being sent by the tower is not for communication, but for classification. Perhaps the tower is a beacon, and the long, slow data stream of our history is a report on a developing resource or a developing threat. The silence, then, is not the silence of a patient observer. It is the silence of a predator, watching its prey, waiting for the perfect moment to act. So the next time you see a picture of the Eiffel Tower, or if you are ever lucky enough to stand beneath its immense, graceful form, look up. Look past the tourists and the souvenir sellers. Look at the intricate web of iron reaching for the sky. Listen past the sounds of the city. Listen for the hum of a machine that has been working silently for over 130 years. A machine that is recording everything we are and broadcasting it into the infinite dark. See it not as a relic of the past, but as a living bridge to a future we cannot possibly imagine. Every evening, the tower puts on a show. It sparkles with thousands of points of light, a dazzling display for 5 minutes of every hour. We see it as a beautiful, romantic gesture. But what if it's not for us? What if it's a diagnostic check, a status report, a coded message twinkling in the night, a burst of data confirming that the system is still active, still listening, still transmitting? The final pulse in a message that has been composing itself for more than a century. We have spent our entire existence as a species shouting questions into a seemingly empty cosmos. What if the answer has been waiting in the heart of our most beautiful city all along? If the Eiffel Tower is a telephone to the stars, and we have been unknowingly leaving a message on the universe's answering machine for over a century, what happens when someone or something finally decides to pick up the phone?